From the time that the commandment was given in 445 BC by Artaxerxes to restore and rebuild Jerusalem, to the coming of Christ and his presentation of himself to the nation of Israel as their Messiah, was exactly 483 years. But that leaves a 7-year period unfulfilled. And it would seem that when they rejected Christ as the Messiah, that God's time clock sort of stopped and will not start again for the nation of Israel until Christ comes for his church. The church is raptured, and then there will be a 7-year period where God will be dealing with the nation of Israel. And you find that in chapter 9 of the book of Daniel. The Antichrist will come on the scene at the 7-year period of time, and when he comes on the scene at the rapture of the church, he will come on as the Savior of the world, presenting himself as such. A man of great charm, a man of great intrigue and personality, and the world will begin to hail him as the Messiah. He will seemingly be able to take away the fear of war and bring the nations together. He'll make a treaty with the nation of Israel, and in that treaty allow them provisions for the rebuilding of their temple. And they will rebuild a temple in this time. And Paul, writing about him in the second letter to the Thessalonians, said, "Now we beseech you, brethren, by the coming of the Lord, and by our gathering together unto him," that is the rapture of the church, "that you be not soon shaken in mind, or be troubled, neither by spirit, nor by word, nor by a letter as from us, that the day of Christ is at hand. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come unless there is first of all a departure, and the man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition," or the Antichrist, "who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that as God he sits in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. But remember that when I was with you, I told you these things. And now you know what is withholding, that he might be revealed in his time. For the mystery of iniquity is already at work, only he who now hinders will hinder until he is taken out of the way. And then shall that wicked one be revealed, whom the Lord will consume with the spirit of his mouth, and will destroy with the brightness of his coming. Even him whose coming is after the working of Satan, with all power and signs and lying wonders, with all deceivableness and unrighteousness in them that perish, because they've received not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. And for this cause God will give them a strong delusion, that they would believe a lie, that they all might be damned who believe not the truth, but have pleasure in unrighteousness. So it seems that the Antichrist will begin his reign, charming the world and bringing peaceful conditions to the world. It will be a time of great prosperity. Of course, the church will be gone and the Christians will be gone. And so suddenly you have all of the wealth that is possessed by Christians, all of the properties will be available and divided up, and so it will be a time of prosperity as far as the people that are here are concerned. They will believe that this man is the answer to the world's need. They will worship him. And then after 3.5 years, after he's made this covenant with Israel for them to rebuild their temple, he will come to the rebuilt temple, and he will stop the daily sacrifices and the prayers, and he will stand in the temple, as we read, and he will declare that he is God and demand to be worshiped as God. That is what Daniel refers to as the abomination of desolation, or the abomination that brings the desolation or the great tribulation period, God's judgment and God's wrath to be poured out upon the world. As Jesus said in Matthew 24, when you see the abomination of desolation that was spoken of by Daniel the prophet standing in the holy place, then flee to the wilderness. So this is 3.5 years into this 7-year period. He comes to the nation of Israel. He stands in the temple. He demands to be worshiped as God, and this will be an eye-opener to the Jews who have been deceived by this man. Jesus said, I came in my Father's name, you didn't receive me. There's another one who's going to come in his own name, and him you will receive. But then they will realize that this man is an imposter, and we are told that, and we'll get this when we move on in Revelation, that God will give to the nation of Israel wings of an eagle, and they will flee to the area of Moab, probably to the area of Petra, and there they will be preserved by God for this last 3.5 years of the Great Tribulation. So, from the time that he comes and stands in the temple and demands to be worshiped as God, stops the daily prayers and sacrifices, it will be 1,290 days until Jesus comes again in power and great glory with his church. That's why when Jesus said no man knows the day or the hour, he's not referring to his second coming. He's referring to the rapture of the church, of which we don't know when that's going to happen. But if it is your misfortune to be here on the earth during the time of God's great wrath being poured out upon the earth, if it's your misfortune to be here, you can know, if you're still alive and survive the judgments of God that are being poured out upon the earth, you will know that when the Antichrist comes to the temple in Jerusalem and stops the daily prayers and sacrifices, that it will be 1,290 days until Jesus will come with his church to establish God's kingdom upon the earth. Daniel tells us that in Daniel chapter 12. Now, Jesus in Matthew 24 is responding to the request of the disciples that they question him, what will be the signs of your coming and of the end of the age? Notice they didn't ask for signs of the rapture, because there are no signs. That's going to happen just at any moment. But the signs of your coming and the end of the age. And so Jesus proceeded to give to them signs of his coming. And he told the things that would precede his coming. And then when you get down to verse 36 of chapter 24, it would seem that at this point, he begins now to speak of the rapture of the church. He gave them the signs of his coming, but now he turns and he gives them